So Ali, you've been to Cuba?
I have, yes. I was on the March trip in 2024. So
Oh,
just a year ago, which it was incredible. We had Adele for our guide, and yeah, I just fell in love with it. So
yeah, Adele's a great guy. I got
it,
from him
wonderful.
and our team. They got together yesterday, and
Yeah.
he just wrote a book, and he got it
Oh,
published.
wow. I knew
Yeah,
he was in the process of writing. He got it published. That's
yeah,
amazing.
very excited about it. It's called
Wow.
uh, Palomitas de Maíz, which would be popcorn in English. I don't
Yeah.
know what the translation in English he will give because sometimes the titles don't translate literally.
Don't know.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't wait to read it. I have to buy it on
Oh,
Amazon. Yeah.
me too. Me too. Oh, that I'm so happy for him. I knew that was a process, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the whole trip was really, really unbelievable. Really well done. It was fantastic.
Just a very different destination. People don't
Very.
stand. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very different from almost everywhere else you go in the world. So
completely. You have to go. You have to go and experience it yourself.
exactly,
That's it. Yeah.
exactly. Good. Yeah, yeah. I can tell you I've lived in many places, and I'm in Spain right now, and
Right.
there's no place like home. I mean, this is the closest I've ever felt
Come to
to
it. Yeah.
home. But I miss Havana. I miss my
No, for sure.
people. Is
Yeah.
the vibe. It's
I
just
I could see why. Yeah. They're
yeah,
just so warm. Like everyone was just so warm and
yeah.
welcoming.
Just
Yeah,
genuinely helpful, genuinely open.
exactly.
Just yeah.
Rare. Rare now.
For
Yeah.
those who are joining us, I know it sounds we're already talking Cuba. We can't wait. So, but I'm just going to give people another like 1 or 2 minutes. Just some people like to come last minute. Ali, just a
Yeah.
admin question. Are you able to
Yes.
see the people as they come through the lobby and let them in, or am I only seeing that?
I can see it, so I can do
Okay.
that. No
Would you mind
problem.
letting
Yep,
people in? Thank you. Okay.
of course.
So. Yeah, we had about 80 people register for this webinar, and we are recording it. So, some of those people might be just planning to get the recording and watch it later. But for those of you who are here today, thank you so much. We're so pleased to have you join us. We're so pleased to share information about Adventure Women's trip to Cuba. And again, we're just going to get started in a moment. And just to let you know too, for this meeting, you might see, so we are using Teams, and Teams has a Q&A feature, the question and answer feature. And so if you see, you might see Ali's opening welcome there. And so that's what we're going to be using throughout this presentation. Feel free to use it at any time during the presentation to ask questions, ask for clarification, anything you want to know. And we'll either kind of answer some of those questions as we're going, or we're going to have some time at the end for questions as well. And I expect this presentation just take half an hour or so, and then we'll leave 15 minutes at the end for questions. So I'm going to get started here with just some introductions and background information. As I know some of you are on a tight schedule. This is lunch break maybe for some of you. So welcome to the Adventure Women presentation about our trip to Cuba. So it's a destination deep dive to Cuba. So my name is Paige Davis, and I am the president of Adventure Women. And I was last in Cuba in November of 2022. And joining me is my colleague, Ali Haas. So Ali, when were you in Cuba?
I was there March of 2024, so just over a year ago.
Okay, great.
Which was amazing. So that was my first Adventure Women trip and my first time to Cuba. So I had the dual experience there. So feel free to ask me about either one or both.
Excellent. And part of the reason Ali and I are both kind of presenting this is, again, like we were there a year and a half apart and had some different experiences there. So some of what we're going to talk about in this presentation is how things are kind of changing a bit, as one year to the next, certain things change, then it goes back. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. And then we have Ana Maria with us. And Ana Maria is originally from Cuba, and she is the person who helped us put this whole itinerary together. So she knows the details of the itinerary very intimately, and everything you're going to do on this trip. And Ana, I don't know if you want to add any more thoughts to your introduction.
It's lovely, ladies, to be here, to have the opportunity to share about Cuba with you all. Cuba is my home country. It's the place that gets my heart beating the fastest in the world, and talking about it is a joy. So we hope that you will enjoy the presentation, and we're here to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to both you and Ali for being here. And again, as I said, this is going to be kind of a little bit of a conversation. We have slides we're going to go through. But for Ali and Ana Maria, at any point, if you want to interrupt, interject, clarify, please do. Don't be afraid of interrupting me. So I am going to start with, let's see. Okay, here we go. Just a little bit of background, because I know some of the people joining us today maybe are not familiar with AdventureWomen. So I wanted to give a little bit of introduction just to AdventureWomen. So we have been around since 1982, so almost over 40 years. And we offer about 75 trips that are designed exclusively by women and for women. And these trips explore more than 65 countries around the world. We are now on every single continent, including Antarctica. Back one. So a little bit about our guests, who you will meet on an AdventureWomen trip. So a wide variety of women. You're going to meet women who range in age from 18 to 80. Although I will tell you, most of the women who travel with AdventureWomen are between the ages of 50 and 65. You're going to meet women who are married, who are single, who are in a relationship, divorced or widowed, women who come from all different backgrounds and lifestyles and life circumstances. Every woman is going to have a story, and a huge part of the AdventureWomen experience is getting to know everybody's stories and building those relationships. All the women you'll meet are going to be curious about the places you're visiting and the people you're meeting. And AdventureWomen tend to be active. And so we have a range of activity levels, which I'll talk a little bit about. But even on our lowest activity level trips, which right now are called moderate trips, our guests are generally confident walking up to 2 miles at a time. And we will talk about kind of the activity level of this specific trip in Cuba as well. So as I said, a little bit about activity levels. Right now we have 4 activity levels. Sneak peek, next month we're going to be announcing kind of a refresh of those activity levels. So look for that very soon. But when you call or chat or write to any of the adventure managers at AdventureWomen, all of them have intimate knowledge about our trips, and they can really talk to you one-on-one and help you choose what activity level is the best fit for you. Our trips are all small group trips, so we never have more than 15 guests on a trip. And the reason for this is that it really creates an encouraging environment for everyone to experience empowering and memorable activities. And we have a trip manager for every single trip. So when you sign up for a trip with AdventureWomen, before that trip starts, you will be in touch with one of our trip managers. And this is a member of our office team who is specifically assigned to handle customer service for this trip. So she is going to know every single thing, all the ins and outs of this trip. She's going to get your flight information, your passport information. She's going to know how you're getting from the airport to the hotel, what you're doing at the end of the trip, everything. So, we're going to be helping you every step of the way. And we always have passionate local guides and ambassadors. So one of the hallmarks of AdventureWomen is that we, like Ana Maria, we work with operators who operate on the ground in the country we're visiting, and they identify the best local guides to be with you on that trip. Most of our trips include an AdventureWomen ambassador as well, and I'm going to show you a slide to see who your ambassador is. But the ambassadors are women who have traveled extensively with AdventureWomen, and they know what the experience is like, what we want it to be like, and they're just going to ensure that you have the best experience you can possibly have on your trip. And a huge part of every AdventureWomen trip is connecting with local women. So especially on this trip to Cuba, you are going to meet and engage with captivating local women. And we'll talk about some of those women you're going to meet on this trip. Okay, so let's dive in to Cuba, a journey through music, art, and tradition. So we've been offering this trip at AdventureWomen for many years now. And next year, the dates of the trip are February 6th through 14th. And you can see the prices here. You can share a double room for $69.95. And you can, if you're coming with a friend or somebody you know, you can share a room with that person. But we have plenty of women who are kind of going in without a person they know, and we will match you with a roommate for this trip. If you want your own room, perfectly fine. We have single rooms. There's just a $1,300 single room upgrade if you want your own room on this particular trip. All right, let me see here. Okay, so here's the map of this trip. And here over on the top right, you can kind of see the pull-out map. So you can see how close Cuba is to Florida. And you will be flying out of Miami. Everybody will be flying out of Miami to get to Havana. And Miami is kind of in the southern part of Florida. So it's a very short flight from Miami to Cuba. And then you can see we're going from Havana to Valle de Vinales, over to Trinidad, and then back to Havana. So when you're booking your flights, which we can help you with, you'll be booking a round trip flight in and out of Havana. Okay, so once you're in Cuba, this is what one of our coaches looks like. It's a small coach. So, it probably seats about 16 to 18 people, and our trip size for Cuba is usually between like 8 and 12. So there's plenty of empty seats. It's very comfortable, very roomy. It's air conditioned. There's room for your luggage. Anytime we're going for drives on any of our trips, it's going to be broken up with stops to visit local farms. We will have bathroom breaks whenever you need them. We will stop for food and snacks and any kinds of cultural experiences along the way. So as I said, getting there. So both American Airlines and Delta fly direct from Miami to Havana. I just looked at flights about an hour ago from Boston, and a flight from Boston to Havana with that stop in Miami. This morning it was $450 round trip. And typically from any major airport in the US, you're looking at under $600 round trip for your flight, which we were just talking about this morning is kind of incredible. There's hardly anywhere you can fly that inexpensively these days. So it's super easy to get to. And for this trip, once you get to the airport, we will take care of transferring everybody to the hotel, no matter what time you arrive. We will take care of that. So a lot of people are curious about what's involved. And, there's certain restrictions about people from the US going to Cuba. And why is this possible? Why are we able to do this? And so we are able to send people to Cuba under the category of support for the Cuban people. And there are certain requirements involved with this support for the Cuban people. So we do have to spend at least 6 hours of every day engaged in activities that specifically support the Cuban people. And honestly, this is like the best part of this trip, is that you're so engaged and involved and meeting the local people, meeting local artists, meeting meeting local business owners, that it makes the trip that much more valuable. So yes, so supporting the Cuban people is going to mean staying in Cuban-owned accommodations, meeting Cuban entrepreneurs, and supporting Cuban artists. So that's a little bit about what you'll be doing there, and we will get into more of the details, but I'm still kind of just talking about the logistics. So to get to Cuba, you do need to get a tourist card, and we will talk you through all of that. You will obtain your tourist card after you purchase your flights, after the trip is confirmed, after we say, yes, this trip is definitely happening. We will help you with the process and tell you how to get that tourist card. So as I mentioned, most of our trips have an ambassador to kind of go with you on the trip and help ensure that everything goes smoothly and that you're having an amazing experience. On this trip, our ambassador is Kristen Martell, who's this lovely woman in this photo. Kristen wasn't able to join us on this call, but I can tell you she lives in Virginia. She's been on more than 15 trips with Adventure Women. She has traveled with us all over the world. And we're excited to have her on this trip. And I know she's thrilled to go on this trip as well. So I'm just going to do a quick kind of like photo slideshow of some of the things you'll see. Of course, you know that Cuba is very well known for their gorgeous classic cars, and it's very exciting that everywhere you go, I mean, in the background, you can see some modern cars, but everywhere you're going to go, you're going to see these really impeccably maintained classic cars, which is very, very fun to see. There's tons of natural beauty. Flowers, landscape, the color of the houses. It's just absolutely beautiful there, and beautiful weather, colorful art. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the art. That by far the art is one of my favorite things about Cuba. Art in many places can feel a little bit inaccessible. It's the exact opposite in Cuba. It is so accessible. And if you can see behind me, I have tons of artwork that I bought in Cuba. I don't usually buy art when I travel, but I could not resist in Cuba because it's just all, you meet the artist in most cases when you're buying the art, which is an incredible experience. And rustic charm. So, there's a lot of different cultures that have influenced Cuba. Cuban architecture and Cuban culture, with, a lot of Spanish, European influences. And so the architecture is really interesting. You've got those like kind of narrow, cozy streets, kind of where you kind of feel like you never know what's going to be around the next corner, which is very fun. So I'll dive a little bit deeper into the experience of traveling in Cuba. So really at the top of the list, I think, is the fascinating history of Cuba. There's so much that has been preserved, the colonial architecture, the history. Everywhere you look is artwork, sculptures, monuments that tell stories of the history of Cuba. So while you're there, you're going to learn so much. You're going to learn about Spanish colonization that happened in the 16th century, and then the rise of the sugar plantations and bringing in enslaved Africans in the 17th century. You're going to learn all about the 19th century wars for independence, the Cuban Revolution, and then go into the Cold War communism, the influence of the US, and kind of where things are today with US-Cuban relations and Cuban relations with all the countries of the world. So great opportunity to learn about Cuban culture during this trip. Food is delicious. And all, just very traditional and with a lot of thought and care put into it. So these are photos of some of the food, ropa vieja, which Ali told me is her favorite food in Cuba. A lot of fish, plantains, picadillo, flan, cafe cubano, mojitos, plenty of rice and beans. So yeah, there's a wide variety of foods that you're going to be eating. Wide variety. Everything is very flavorful. It's and plentiful too. Some of the food highlights of this trip is a farm-to-table lunch in Viñales. You will be dining at a lot of traditional paladares, which are family-owned restaurants. So again, supporting the Cuban people. So we're not going to big, chain restaurants or restaurants owned by corporations or whatever. These are family-owned operations, which just, I think there's so much care put into how they treat their guests, their diners, and the establishment itself. And you'll really see that. You'll also be part of the hands-on cooking demonstration in Havana. Ali, did you do that when you were there?
No, we had a like a mojito bartending experience, which was a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then dancing, live music all together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. And of course, the colorful culture there. I mean, it is just, I think something I would take back from Cuban culture is just how important music, art, and dance are to all the people who are living there. And you're going to see it everywhere. You are going to meet with local artists that you can see here. You can see some textile artists and ceramics. You're going to see local dance groups. You're going to go out to an outdoor music venue, Casa de la Música. You'll visit Havana's Fine Arts Museum. And yeah, this dance company, you'll see the Havana Compass Dance.
Yeah, that we did go to, and it was unbelievable. It was such a special experience. You are up close and personal with this company that is just unbelievable. It's beautiful. You just can't believe it. That was very, very special. Like you said, Paige, of meeting the artists. This was a whole different type of artistry. And again, like to meet these performers and to learn how they got here was amazing.
Great, thank you. And, I think a lot of people have questions about what it's going to be like staying in some of the accommodations in Cuba. And so these photos are some of the places you'll be staying. So, I think maybe people feel uncertain about, staying in these low, small family-owned establishments. But look how nice these places are. So you're going to be staying in these very private boutique hotels throughout the trip. Now, some of these accommodations are quite small. And so depending on our group size, we might be split into 2 different properties, but the level of quality of all the properties is equal. So there's, nobody's going to have a better experience than somebody else on the trip. And scenic nature. And this, Ali and Ana Maria might have to jump in. The Cuba trip I did was not that nature focused and outdoorsy, but I will just kind of go over, what I know happens on this trip, which is visiting orchid gardens and caves and iconic tobacco farms. But maybe Ali or Ana Maria can chime in with more of the specifics of this part of the trip.
Ali, you want to go ahead? Or
yeah, sure. So the nature part, I think, is really, really special, and it's something that's overlooked often, I think, with when you think of visiting and traveling to Cuba from this perspective. And it was just unbelievable. The hike we had done was you start up top and you go down, and you feel like you're just going through these ecosystems. And then you can see that top left picture was just a swimming hole that it was just us. It was just our group there. And it was unreal. And so people enjoyed it. You could go behind that waterfall. You could just hang out if you wanted to, like that's an option. So the nature piece of the trip is absolutely, hands down, that was one of like the favorite activities of people that came up that was just so surprising, is how much there is to do just outside of the cities and in nature, and how it has its own history and its own past. And so you're still learning. It's just so unique. And so you've got the hiking, sugarcane, every single thing you do is more beautiful than the next, but also interesting, just historically, just learning the background of the places you're going and why, and the connection to the Cuban people. And Ana Maria, just jump in. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. So, ladies, let me tell you that every activity that you would do in the program is very, very carefully selected and thought out. We work only with the best local suppliers, and one of the criteria we choose them about is is their passion and how well they know their land, and how well they can connect with visitors in a very authentic way. So when you go into this farm that Paige was talking about in Viñales, you're not just, sitting down on a farm, they'll put the food there. No, no, no. The owners are there. Their names are Rachel and Tony. And Rachel comes and talks to you at the table, and she's like, okay, anybody has any allergies, any problems? Oh, let me bring you these other things. And she starts bringing out everything from her kitchen. And by the end of the meal, you know that that day you cannot eat again because everything is so delicious. They have their own organic garden, and you can see it, walk through it. It's just fantastic. And this whole experience in the Viñales area is something that, for me, as a Cuban, is a highlight of the trip. And I think that's how you're going to feel it as well, because Viñales in Pinar del Rio is one of the most beautiful landscapes you can think of. It has these beautiful square mountain tops, limestone mountains called mogotes, that are, a lot of them are full of caves within, and you're actually going to visit the largest cave system in Cuba in this trip in February. But you'll get to experience the valley, walk down on the valley with a local guide, stop at a cigar or a tobacco farm and learn about the tobacco process, see the seeds of the tobaccos, visit a barn, smell. And I know that cigars are not appealing, but the actual smell of a tobacco leaf is actually a very beautiful smell. And you get overwhelmed by that sense of, just aromas. You meet the farmers. The farmers tell you about the crop, about their main client, which is the Cuban government. So you get to see the land, you get to visit the valley, walk it in that piece that is being surrounded by that beautiful nature. You get to see the bird species, the local bird species. If you get lucky, you will see a tocororo, which is Cuban trogon, Cuba's national bird. You may even see along the way, you may even see the smallest bird in the world, which is the hummingbird, the bee hummingbird, the sunsuncito. So, I mean, the possibilities of the nature in Cuba are something, like you guys said, Paige and Ali, very understated and not something you think about. When you think of Cuba, you think classic cars and rum and dance, but nature is simply breathtaking, and it's going to steal your heart, waking up to that beautiful view and taking a stretching yoga session early in the morning before your breakfast. And just that sets the tone for the day, for a wonderful day hiking and understanding the countryside.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So as I said, when I went in 2022, we didn't do this part of the trip. And now I feel like I need to go back. So I wanted to mention that too. Maybe even if you've been to Cuba, there's so much more to explore. I mean, it's a large island, and we're only going to see a piece of it on this trip. But yeah, this looks incredible. So thank you both for sharing more about that. Okay. Oh, yeah. So the number one thing I would recommend to anybody who is thinking about taking this trip is to do a little bit of preparation before you go. It just makes the experience that much more meaningful. So it was recommended to me to read this book, An American History, Cuba. It is I don't know, 600 pages. It's very long. And I got a late start on it. And so then someone said, oh no, there's a Netflix series, the Cuba Libre story. And so I watched all of that. I don't know, maybe it's 7 episodes or something. And you are going to learn so much about Cuba. And again, you're going to learn a lot when you're there. But if you want to kind of get a little bit of a head start on it, I highly recommend either reading the book or watching the series, or even both.
I second that, Paige. I think it just enriches the experience that much more. And then to hear it and experience it from Cuban people themselves is just unbelievable. But yeah, that baseline I think is just so important. And most of it you'll find out is a different experience. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah. So, okay, so talking a little bit about details and expectations, because again, I think Cuba, it's a little bit of an unknown to some people that, they don't know a lot of people who have been there. They're curious. So we just wanted to reassure you that Cuba is a very safe country to visit. But restrictions obviously have been put in place by the US government. And therefore our access to areas of Cuba it's tightly controlled. So I know when people go, they sometimes say, oh, when are we going to go to the beach? Or when are we going to do this? And so unfortunately, because of the restrictions, it is the itinerary is pretty set. And again, those like 6 hours of supporting the Cuban people, we document all of that. So your daily itinerary is going to be very full, and there's a lot of variety, as we've talked about, the arts and culture and nature and dining. There's not a ton of opportunity on this trip to explore on your own. So we just want to manage that expectation. But when there is a little time, some downtime at the hotel, your guide, who will be it might be this man here. There's two guides, so we're not sure which one you're going to get. Both friendly, both fantastic, both very helpful. They're going to help you and tell you where you can go, how much time things take, and everything you'll need to know if you do have a little time on your own. In terms of money and currency, US dollars are the preferred currency in Cuba. At some big hotels, which again, we're staying at kind of smaller family-owned establishments, but at some places, they do accept credit cards. When I was there, it was not very common to accept credit cards. So you should plan to bring cash, and in particular, small, clean bills, ones, fives, and tens. Ana Maria, would you say any of that has changed?
No, at the moment, that continues to be the trend. In most restaurants and every place you're going to be able to purchase, they mostly accept cash. And like you said, a few places accept credit cards, but we would not rely on those.
Yep, great. So in terms of Wi-Fi and cell phone service, it's pretty limited. So most of the places you're staying, there will be Wi-Fi, but oftentimes there are time or bandwidth restrictions. Sometimes you can buy more time, which isn't very expensive. So if you really need it, you can get it. I know when I went, I just left my phone in airplane mode the whole time I was there. I told everybody close to me that they had to have WhatsApp, which we know works with Wi-Fi. And I had no problem with that. And I even was able to do video calls with my family over the WhatsApp video. So it's not like you're going to be completely cut off from the world in Cuba. It's just you're not going to be like if you were expecting to, work on a big spreadsheet in the evening, you might not be able to do that. So bathroom facilities. So generally bathrooms, everywhere you go, they're going to be clean, they're going to be well maintained, but the plumbing in Cuba is pretty old. And so in Cuba, they just want everybody to be very careful about what is getting flushed down the toilet. So most of the restrooms have toilet paper. We recommend bringing some small packs of thin tissues, but probably not wipes. They don't want, thick wipes going down into their plumbing. So, a few packs of Kleenex is a good thing to bring with you.
And I found two-page for this. This is where those small bills, like the dollar, comes in handy. Because some of the stops along the way, there may be people outside the restroom for toilet paper. So if you wanted to just kind of like get it that way, that I recommend the small bills too, just to tip the attendant.
Great point. Great point. So this was something Ali and I were talking about this morning about electricity. So electricity in Cuba can be unpredictable. And this has a lot to do with just the infrastructure in Cuba, how old everything is, how the government is involved in things. But most of the places we're going to visit, the hotels, the restaurants, they're going to have generators. So even if the power is out, you might have some like low light power. But we do want to just prepare everybody that there might be some outages. And so to prepare for that, bring a small flashlight, maybe a headlamp for during the night. So if you have to get up and go to the bathroom during the night, it might be quite dark in your room. Ali had said on her trip that somebody brought a solar lamp and a solar power bank, and that was very popular.
Definitely. Yeah, we were all like, oh, so that was a good helpful thing that's easy to pack, just collapsible. You can get one for a
So
good
maybe
cost.
not as big as what's in this picture.
Lantern.
Paul Revere lantern. No, exactly. Something small. Because again, you're really going to only need it, like in the middle of the night in your room if it's dark outside. So something small just to help. And again, when I was there in 2022, we had no power outages. And what we hear from guests is it definitely fluctuates trip by trip. So to just be prepared is the best advice we can give. So again, we're going there, we're supporting the Cuban people. And one of the things that you'll notice when you get there, there's no just like a corner store. So it is very difficult for the people of Cuba to obtain some of these things that are in this photo that I think we mostly take for granted, that we all have in our medicine cabinet. We can run out if we need it. So they really don't have easy access to these things. And so that's something that we do recommend that guests think about when they're going to Cuba, is to bring some gifts that they can bring to support local families. And we will give you a list of gifts that we recommend you bring. They're generally these basic supplies for children. School supplies are often recommended, but also these, over-the-counter medical things, aspirin, antacids, allergy relief is so appreciated. I remember when I was there, everyone wanted shampoo, and that was a huge one as well. And it's all, I'll just add, I remember when I went, the people I was with were very unsure of how to distribute these gifts. We'll explain all of that to you as well before you go. So it's not awkward at all. And there's a process to it that we will talk you through. Okay, so once again, the details of this trip. Cuba, a journey through music, art, and tradition with Adventure Women. It is February 6th through 14th. Here is the pricing. We have a handful of people already booked on the trip, so there are a few spaces left, and we really hope some of you on this call or watching the recording will be interested in joining us. But I wanted to open it up to any questions that anybody might have. And if you don't ask today, hopefully you have our phone number, you have our email address. You can book this trip right from our website, AdventureWomen.com. And we are always here for any questions you have. But I wanted to see if there are any questions from the group right now. If not, we're happy to keep chatting.
Doesn't look like anything's come through so far.
Yeah.
Should we offer a discount to the one that first asked questions? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
$10 off for the first question.
You go.
And one thing I just like to point out for myself is that Cuba wasn't on my radar at all, really, of a place to travel to beforehand. And I am so grateful beyond, I think, any destination really I've gone through in my life that I had this opportunity. Feel an immense amount of gratitude. And just it's a trip that sits with you for sure, just humanity wise. And I just found it really, really special. I'd go back in a heartbeat. Like Paige said, I'd hop on a plane and do Cuba all over again. So something to keep in mind.
Sylvia's?
Oh yeah, Sylvia has a question, but Sylvia, if you can put your question in the Q&A, if you hit the Q&A button, because and Mindy has a question too. We have everybody's microphone and video turned off just to control chaos. Emily has a question. Do we recommend trip insurance for this trip? So I will say that we recommend trip insurance for every trip. You never know what's going to happen, and it's not that something we expect anything to happen to Cuba or to the trip itself, but anything can happen to you, and we want you and your investment in this trip to be protected. I don't know, Ali, if you have anything else to add about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all is exactly it, Paige. And for us, we had a little weather. You are off the coast of southern Florida, there in the Caribbean a bit. So it's always a good idea too, if there's ever a flight delay or something like that, then just to be protected. But absolutely, just in general these days, it's the best thing to do when you're traveling. But I used it, so I have experience with it.
Oh, here we go. Here, Sylvia's. I was starting to worry that maybe the Q&A wasn't working, but I see Sylvia's question came in. Since the nightlife is quite vibrant, can we go out on our own in the evening? Ana Maria, can you take that one?
Yes, of course. So the answer would be yes. You would, however, be coached by your guide on, the best places to go. If you wish to go out, we could also assist you with getting a taxi at that point, with recommending venues that you could enjoy live music, if that's what you're hoping for. Nightlife in Cuba is very vibrant, and there's more and more places coming up with just amazing carteleras, schedules of events. They usually are programmed just a week in advance, so it's hard to tell what's gonna have the best show. There's a lot of live jazz. Jazz is huge in Cuba right now. Latin jazz is beautiful. It's emerging in almost every corner. You will stay in great locations everywhere you are. So it is possible. As everywhere else in the world you travel, we advise caution and always talk to your guide. And we have a concierge also on the ground available to you 24/7. So you don't feel like you don't have full support when you need something. But it is possible. I see here on your first night, you're probably not going to want to go out, but there will be several opportunities, like on day 3 in Viñales. We will take you out to dinner in town, and usually there's some live Cuban music, traditional music. It's more common to experience traditional Cuban music outside of the capital. In the capital, Habaneros are not so keen on traditional music, so you will experience more of a jazz scene and a few other things. There might be a little bit of traditional as well, but we will try to mix it up for you as well. Havana, of course. In Trinidad as well, there's Casa de la Música. As Paige said, there is a likeliness that you will experience power outages. So sometimes those can affect venues. So we will just have to play by ear, because it's not something that can be predicted at this point. The infrastructure is getting improved upon. There's a ton of solar farms that are being implemented. We work with venues that have generators, but we do have to play by ear on that, and we will always have a recommendation for you.
Great, thank you.
And my experience too with the musicians and power outages was, we had the experience in Trinidad of going to see live music, and there was a little bit of a power outage, and the musicians they switched to acoustic, and people were still out there dancing salsa, like did not skip a beat. And I think that's just such a testament to the Cuban people and Cuban musicians and artists as well. It was just so fun. A
Well,
total
Ali, you
pivot. So that's the flexibility of Cuba too.
you touched a really important point there, and it is that Cuba has been experiencing power outages since the 90s. Since the Berlin Wall collapsed, there's power outages in Cuba because Cuba just doesn't have all the infrastructure and all the money to buy, oil, international, amongst other reasons. But Cubans have just learned to adapt, and a power outage doesn't stop anyone at this point in Cuba. We adapt, we create, we get generators, and we make do when there's no generators, like those musicians in Casa de la Música. So
absolutely.
So Donna is asking about how long the drives are. And I know I mentioned that drives are broken up, you're stopping at farms. So I don't know if Ana Maria, you can answer, because I know we've changed the itinerary a little bit. So what is the average number of hours will be in the van?
Okay, so you're all arriving in Havana, and that gives you time to, breathe, recover from your trip. You will have a very pleasant first night in Havana with dinner at your own accommodations. It's this beautiful boutique property where it has its own restaurant. So we will do a lovely welcome dinner there. The day after, you are going to Viñales. And this is a long drive, not long, but it's a 2.5-hour drive approximately, which we will break into two because we will stop in Soroa, which is kind of halfway. And that's where you will visit an orchid garden. So, but all in all, your drive that day will be a total of about 2.5 hours to 3 hours, depending on the roads. Then the day after, there's no driving at all. You just have a very relaxing day, hiking, stretching, exploring Viñales town, very short ride on the vehicle if needed. The day after is going to be your longest drive, and that's when you go from Viñales to Trinidad. And that's approximately 6.5 hours. However, we will stop in Cienfuegos City on the way, which is a beautiful French colonial city. And you will have an opportunity to stretch your legs, to get to know the city, to have lunch there, overlooking the bay. So it's a day that is not a drive day. It's a day that you're combining the drive together with touring and enjoying a new city. After that, you have a day in Trinidad, pretty much no driving. And then your next drive and last is your drive back from Trinidad to Havana. And that one is about 4.5 hours. That's kind of all your driving in the trip. We've broken it up as effectively as possible. So you have, again, stops along the way, meaningful stops, and it's generally much it doesn't feel overwhelming, we hope, anyways.
Great, thank you. If anyone else has a question, again, we're using the Q&A feature. You should see a button on your screen to post something. In the meantime, is there anything else, Ali or Ana Maria, you want to add? Anything we didn't cover?
Yes, I would love to add something about the perception of Cuba in the U.S. And I know there's a lot in the media about, is it possible to go to Cuba? Is it not? And then the headlines say, no tourism to Cuba. And people think, oh my God, I cannot go to Cuba. How horrible. But what they do not know is that tourism to Cuba from the US has been prohibited for decades. And what we do is not what they define by tourism. What we do falls into one of the 12 approved categories that have been established by the Office of Foreign Assets Control of the Department of Treasury. And the support for the Cuban people is exactly what we do in the program. like you've heard from Paige and Ali. We're constantly engaging with locals. We're constantly engaging with business owners, visiting family-owned restaurants. So that is completely legal. And that has not changed at all in any of the last 3 administrations. Even on the first Trump administration, that was not prohibited. So far in this administration, there was a memorandum that talked a little bit about it. The only change that has happened so far has been that some of the hotels that we were able to use in the past to accommodate you guys are now in the Cuba restricted list, because those are government-owned hotels, and the U.S. does not want to put money into the government, Cuban government's hands, and this is why they are now on that list. So by staying in private accommodations instead, we're directly supporting the Cuban people and putting the money directly in their pockets. And like Paige said and showed you in photos, these are lovely accommodations. They're comfortable, they're air conditioned. Everybody will have a bathroom in their own room. There's hot and cold water. All the basics will be covered. And like, Cubans are so creative. A lot of them are beautifully decorated, have local art. So I think it's even better than staying at a hotel, because you get that feel of being in someone's home without the interference. You know, you feel like a welcome guest. Breakfasts are delightful. So I think it's a win for the groups. But I just wanted to point that out, because what you see on the news, you know, you have to dig deeper. And we are the experts. If you have any questions, you can always call. Plus, we're always following up on any changes. So if anything changes that could potentially affect you, you will hear it from us before you hear it from anybody else. So far, there is no reason whatsoever to not think of Cuba when you're thinking of a trip.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, as Ali said, I mean, I think if you're here watching this, Cuba is on your list. You're thinking about it. And I think if you're thinking about it, there's no reason not to go. It's you can go. It's a very enjoyable experience. The flights aren't that expensive. It's, and it's so close. There's no long haul flight to Europe or Asia. It's a very reasonable flight for this incredible experience. So I think I'm not seeing a ton of questions coming in anymore, and maybe people are shy, which is fine. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us or email us. We're always here, always willing and happy to answer any questions you might have about this or any trip that Adventure Women offers. So I think, just thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Ali and Ana Maria, for helping me and backing me up with your experiences. And yeah, we'll say goodbye and hope to see you in Cuba next year.
That's right.
Allá los esperamos. We will wait for you in Cuba.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.